This podcast was written and created by Avi Melamed, Middle East intelligence analyst and founder of the Inside the Middle East Institute.
Today we're really digging into some fascinating commentary from across the Arab world. This is all from around mid-October 2025, right after that ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
Exactly. And what's striking isn't just disagreement. It's like two completely separate realities being described. We've got sources from Lebanon, Egypt, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and they reveal these clashing moral universes.
Clashing universes is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So the core issue seems to split along two main lines.
Yeah, fundamentally. On one side, you have this narrative of steadfast resistance, a mood, where endurance itself is the victory. And on the other side, just raw criticism, accusations of reckless leadership by Hamas, and absolutely zero accountability.
Okay, let's unpack that steadfast camp first.
Great.
How do they justify the immense cost, the destruction?
Well, they see Hamas, or perhaps the resistance more broadly, as embodying Palestinian dignity. It's about standing firm. You have writers like Hussein Akar praising the amud of people in Gaza. He argues that, look, despite everything, these sacrifices brought political and moral gains.
Moral gains, even with such devastation.
That's the argument. And it gets pushed further. Mohammed Abdi in Egypt, he actually wrote, Gaza has triumphed.
Triumphed? How?
His point was that the resistance forced negotiations, achieved things that, larger Arab armies couldn't in the past, reshaping deterrence in the region, basically.
Okay, and there's a link to international politics too, right?
Hmm.
Some commentators connect this resistance to shifts in, say, European policy.
Right. Nabil al-Jubaili, for instance, he suggests that the increased European talk about recognizing a Palestinian state around then wasn't just idealism. It was partly driven by Western fears, fear of radicalization, political blowback at home. So the suffering itself becomes a kind of leverage.
Interesting. A powerful narrative. But, okay, let's pivot. What about the critics, the accountability angle?
Yeah, the critical and reformist camp. And they are not buying the victory narrative. Not at all. They flat out condemn what they call the propaganda of victories.
Propaganda. Strong word. Who's saying this?
Ibrahim Nur al-Din from Egypt, for one. He had this really fierce piece attacking those marketing imaginary victories. He seemed to be pointing fingers, perhaps implicitly, at outlets like Al Jazeera.
And his argument. What's the core critique?
The Hamas's populism, its actions, have basically mortgaged the Palestinians' future. He asked, what did October 7 actually achieve in terms of liberation? His conclusion was devastating. He said it buried the prospect of a Palestinian state, maybe for 70 years.
Wow, 70 years. That's an incredibly stark assessment to publish.
It really is, and it speaks to this deep frustration. It connects to what Abdurrahman al-Rashid wrote in Saudi Arabia. Al-Rashid basically denounced this whole cycle of declaring defeat as victory. He drew a direct line from Hezbollah's divine victory claim in 2006 to Hamas's moral victory talk now. Hollow, he called it.
Hollow because it ignores the reality on the ground.
Precisely. It ignores the sheer destruction in Gaza. And Samir ad-Dil in Iraq echoed this. He wrote that Hamas turned the flood of Al-Aqsa, the operation's name, into just the flood of Gaza, essentially accusing them of abandoning the population and then trying to rebrand a military failure as just a phase in the national struggle.
So a failure of leadership, a failure of accountability.
And that lack of self-scrutiny, it's captured perfectly in one incident our sources highlighted, involving Hamas leader Musa Abu Marzouk.
Ah, I remember hearing about this, the interview.
That's the one. He was pressed, was the devastation worth it? Did October 7 actually achieve liberation? Tangible results. Yeah. And he couldn't answer. He lost his temper and just cut the interview short, pulled the plug mid-broadcast.
Yeah, that moment really crystallized the issue, didn't it? The refusal to even engage with the hard questions, the reality of the cost. It seems to show this tragic loop. Praising endurance, the amud, while actively dodging the kind of reckoning the critics are demanding. A reckoning based on, facts and ethics.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, for you listening, is where it gets even more complex. Some sources suggest that well-intentioned Western sympathy, when it doesn't grasp these internal dynamics, can actually backfire.
How so?
By sort of inadvertently absolving Hamas of responsibility. If Western discourse frames Hamas simply as the unified voice of Palestinian nationalism, ignoring the internal critics,
it reinforces their impunity.
Exactly. It can unintentionally silence those very voices within the Arab world, the ones we've been discussing, who are pushing for accountability and reform.
So the external view reinforces the internal denial. That's the tragic loop. A really provocative thought to end on.
Yeah.
What stands out most to you in this whole pattern?
This podcast is made possible by supporters like you. ITME is an independent, nonprofit institute committed to apolitical, intelligence-based Middle East education.
To learn more or to support our work, visit our website www.insidethemiddle-east.com.